How many times have you asked yourself this question? Am I normal? Have there been times when you didn't feel like everybody else? Despite your best efforts, have you felt like people looked at you like you had two heads? Maybe you like something less traditional, like 19th century literature or calligraphy. I would bet that at times, most of us have a trait, an interest, something that makes us feel less normal. But I have a confession. I've spent the better part of my life, all 16 years of it, not feeling normal. I've struggled with some serious issues: anxiety, depression, low self-confidence. I remember having friends that would ridicule me for playing Dungeons and Dragons, or for the fact that I enjoy comic conventions, and that affected me greatly. So much so that I ended up leaving my first high school because of it. I would wonder again and again why I couldn't just be more normal. And then Valentine's Day 2018 happened. A day celebrating love turned dark as 17 people were killed at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, the same high school I had left the year before. And in the wake of that horrible tragedy, I began to put things in perspective. I realized that my life was something I needed to treasure. Slowly but surely, I began making progress with my mental health. I felt more stable, more than I had in years, and dare I say, more normal. But this idea of normality, of abnormality, was one I felt compelled to explore further. Oxford Dictionary defines normal as conforming to a standard, usual, typical, or expected. But what is the standard? What is usual, typical, or expected? Searching some more, I found this quote from the Addams Family. "Normal is an illusion. What is normal for the spider is chaos for the fly." And that quote summed up my thoughts almost perfectly in only a few words, but I needed to know more. So I decided to speak to as many people as possible about this, and what I found was really eye-opening. Very few of the people I spoke to said that they considered themselves to be fully normal in a social sense, and almost everybody reported that they had what they considered to be an abnormal interest, everything from backpacking and photography to things like post-mortem and roadkill, things I had never even thought about being interests. But perhaps the most surprising thing is that almost everybody I spoke to answered my questions exactly how I would have answered them. A lot of people told me, nobody is normal. Normal is relative, but how could that be the case, considering all the time I spent thinking of myself as abnormal? That got me thinking that maybe self-identification as abnormal is actually quite normal. Right. Normal is such a confusing word. I would argue that different is the new normal. We're taught from a young age to celebrate diversity, the richness of different cultures and religions, and why standing out from the pack is a good thing. We're constantly being told to be ourselves. We see it everywhere. Even Apple launched that ad campaign around the tagline, "Think different." So why is there this unspoken pressure to conform to the idea of normalcy? And of course, there are broader societal issues. Racism, sexism, homophobia. I'd have to be incredibly naive to think those things aren't real contributors. The fear of the unfamiliar is strong in those unwilling to admit that life is often more than one thing. I won't pretend for a second that I, some 16-year-old kid, have the solutions for that kind of bigotry. Of course not. But if we all promise not to let inconsequential differences get in the way of respecting somebody, maybe some of this pressure to be the same would disappear. Here's what I propose. First, look at yourself. Reframe your thinking so that different becomes a strength, not a flaw. Challenge yourself to celebrate what makes you different, no matter how big or small. I'll start. I'm Sophia, and I still really like Dungeons and Dragons, and I still really like comic conventions, as nerdy as they may be. When you can make that peace with yourself, find somebody you know. Maybe somebody you see every day but have never really had a real conversation with. Then think of this talk. That person has something you can learn from, something different. Find out what it is. Who knows? Maybe You can discover a whole new interest, or maybe not, but at the very least, now you've opened yourself up to the idea that normal is fluid. Everybody's definition of normal is different, and that's a good thing. Communication is so important. Without it, we would never be able to see past ourselves and past our own versions of normal. If we all were to start accepting that everybody's definition of normal meant something different, maybe different can finally become the standard. Thank you.